Hi, everybody. Welcome to All Things Metaphysical podcast with Kellie and Gail. We stopped making them episodes, so today is April 5th, 2023. We're just going by dates now
Yeah.
because we've lost track of what episode it really could be.
Yes, we lost count.
So, before we came on, we were talking about how it's a full moon, there's been solar flares, it's Easter and Passover.
hmm Lots going on energetically and spiritually. So I think a lot of people are having a rough time right now. A lot of people have no energy left. Everyone is tired. Everyone is kind of overwhelmed right now. So it's a really good week to practice kindness, I think.
And self compassion.
hmm Definitely.
Yeah. So I know that we don't really have anything that we necessarily wanted to cover today or anything that we wanted to talk about, but it was 2 weeks, so it was time to do a show.
Yes, yes. One of the things we can talk about, which kind of feeds into the be kind and understand everyone's going through something, is when you're practicing kindness. I like to tell people it's an awesome time to do a little bit of shadow work in the middle of it,
Mhm.
because a big portion of shadow work is realizing what you're doing, realizing when you're judging someone or when you're feeling a little off or angry or frustrated or whatever, track that back into where it began.
Mhm.
And I tell people, ask yourself questions until you run out of questions, because eventually you'll get to the answer.
Mhm.
But when you're trying to practice kindness, at least for me, when I started really focusing on being kind,
Mhm.
that's when all the shadow stuff started coming up. Well, I want to be kind, but you're really an idiot right now. And you have to stop yourself and realize where is that coming from? Realize, oh hey, that's something I should probably figure out why I was triggered in that way. This is a good week to do some of that.
I have a question because my spirit team told me to ask this question.
Okay.
So, when you're a caretaker,
Mm-hmm.
and how do you also take care of yourself? Because oftentimes there's so many demands put on you that oftentimes you get put to the bottom of the list to the point where you're depleted and exhausted. And I could or could not be speaking from experience right now.
I think a lot of people are having that experience right now. Um, the big thing, at least for me, was always setting boundaries.
Mhm,
Sometimes, as a caregiver, we really overgive,
mhm.
especially if you have someone. I know like three people right now that have someone in hospice. Hello. Do you see the flashing? My light's going on and off. Hi. Um, but people in hospice,
Somebody apparently has a message, and apparently that was a good question to ask.
yeah, interesting. Um, but if they're in a hospice situation, if they're in a hospital situation or a nursing home situation, there are people at that facility that will take care of them. So
Mhm,
no matter how much we feel pressured to be there, and we feel like we should be the ones running errands or taking care of people or doing whatever they need done, you have to set some boundaries, because sometimes when we're over giving,
mhm,
that really doesn't help them. It makes them pressure us more. So what we need to do is just set that boundary that, okay, this is what I can do.
mhm,
I'm tired. I can't do any more than this.
mhm.
And really stick to your guns there, because it's so easy when we have loved ones that are asking, can you do this? Can you pick up this? Can you get me that? It's really easy to just take all that on. And
Mhm,
then we do bury ourselves, and it can make you sick.
mhm.
Don't make ourselves sick. Um, it's just boundaries, really, is what it comes down to.
It's
Oh,
It's perfectly about what you were just saying, right?
Uh-huh.
Setting boundaries. Off to go rest now. One of the comments from somebody watching our show live just put on
Yep.
the.
Yeah, and it's great to see you commenting.
Mhm,
Um, it's hard to set those boundaries though sometimes because our hearts want to give and give and give.
mhm,
And if you know that the saying you can't pour from an empty cup, you really can't.
mhm.
You have to take care of yourself first.
Right. I always used to use the analogy, you put your own oxygen mask on first before assisting others, because if you pass out, you're not going to be able to help anybody.
And it's easy to say that. And
Mhm,
I know when I've been in a caregiver role, and I tell everybody else, take care of yourself, don't overgive. But it's so hard sometimes
mhm,
because we do want to be of service.
mhm.
Well, most of us want to be of
Well,
service.
and especially if you're the only one that they have
Right.
to take care of anything. I mean, that just kind of ups the ante a little bit. So,
Right. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yes, taking care of yourself is important. And, you know, everyone needs to get enough rest. Make sure you're getting enough nutrients and things like that, because our physical bodies need to keep going. And if we don't take care of them, we oftentimes get sick.
Yeah. And ask for help
Hmm.
when you need it. Especially if you are the only person that can be relied on, you
Hmm.
need to find some way to get help. And a lot of times, hospice workers will step in.
Hmm.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. And a lot of times we don't. We're like, oh, well, it's a nurse. They're already overworked. But really ask for help.
Hmm.
Yes, you have to take care of yourself first. Absolutely.
So,
No.
do any of our viewers who are watching right now have any questions for us or things you want us to talk about? Please put them in the comments section. We will respond in real time. But yeah, so it's just, and in the United States, there's a lot of drama that went on yesterday, and there's been a lot of drama that goes on every day in the United States. So,
And elsewhere,
and
there's a lot of
elsewhere.
drama other places too. Yeah, we just have our own special circus.
So maybe we could talk a little bit about how do you unplug,
Well, I
and
don't.
stop getting like downloads or like watching so much TV or, being hooked into the negativity that's always going on. How do you unplug yourself from, like most people would think about that as like living off grid? How do you disconnect from the grid for a while in order to take care of yourself?
Fortunately for me, that's not something I have to do.
Hmm.
Um, I don't have TV other than movies that I watch streaming. So I don't get the news.
Hmm.
My I know nothing about what happened yesterday. The only thing I know about is what people have told me.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm grateful for that, really, because I used to be a news junkie.
Hmm.
I played the stock market. I watched news religiously. It was always on. And when I got really, really sick and I started doing my own inner work, my own shadow work, I found that I lost my taste for that entirely. I can't. Today, I can't stand to watch news. If I go someplace where they have the news on, I either step out or I wear headphones because I really seriously can't do it. But I know a lot of people who can't quite get to that point.
Hmm.
And what I tell them is when you're feeling it, and we all feel it,
Hmm.
and no matter if you believe you feel it or not, right now on this planet, everyone is sensitive.
Hmm.
And go outside, take a walk. That's the easiest way to get away from it is just literally walk away from it.
You
But
mean nature, the original Wi-Fi?
yes, nature, the original connection. But that is really the best way to do it because you will recharge yourself without even trying,
Mhm.
and People have sworn to me that it makes no difference to them, and yet I have seen them before and after they go outside for a walk, and it does make a difference. Whether you think it does or not, it really, truly does.
I was faced with a dilemma today because I work from home now. I don't have to go to the office. And I needed to go to the building that my work was in to drop something off. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's probably not in my best interest today. I'm going to just throw the other thing in the mail.
Lob it through the window.
So, no, I didn't go because I knew that energetically it just wouldn't be good for me today.
And that's something people need to pay more attention to as well.
Hmm.
Look for options to avoid putting yourself into those triggering situations, especially when the energy is really heavy.
Hmm.
We can always tell people find a better feeling thought, and that works once you know how to do that.
Hmm.
But for the majority of people, they don't have the luxury of, just getting away from it or avoiding triggers at work. I know several people who work for the IRS. And this time of year is not a happy time for them. And it's just, you talk to people and you can hear the frustration. You can feel the anger boiling just underneath the surface. And those are the people that I always try to send extra calming energy to,
Hmm.
because you can't you can't always get away from it.
Hmm.
And sometimes it is really hard to find that better feeling thought. So while you're trying to do those things and trying to understand why something triggers you so you can heal it, be kind to yourself, cut
Hmm.
yourself some slack. Don't expect yourself to be perfect because none of us are perfect.
Hmm. So they told me to change gears.
Cool.
So, and we talked a little bit about this. So, Avatar, A Way of Water, you can't stream it yet, but you can buy it on any of the streaming platforms. So, of course, I had to buy it because I really wanted to see it. And I thought it was interesting. And I think one of the reasons why so many people relate to the metaphysical movies or movies that have metaphysical tones to them is because they code them with things that unlock things for people. Like, I mean, there's a scene in the movie, without giving too much away, she's using something which most people, if you think about it for a minute, like, oh my God, that's like a mala. She's
Mhm.
literally like chanting with a mala, or a
Right.
rosary or something like that. And I just thought it was really interesting that it's a very prominent uh, feature in the movie. I mean, it's referenced more than once. And so to me, it's just really cool how these movies help many people wake up or reconnect.
Right, and it makes it more acceptable to people who are just starting out on their spiritual journey. It's so, and I have a lot of students right now. I don't know why I have so many right now, but I have a lot of students right now who are just starting out, and it's difficult.
Mhm.
You don't want to really talk about what you're learning with just anyone when you're first starting out. So seeing movies
Mhm.
like Avatar, it's really helpful to make it more acceptable.
Mhm.
I've heard from many people that this show makes them feel like it's more acceptable too. So, that's amazing.
Well, that's
Um,
nice feedback.
but there are so many people right now who are just beginning to
Mm.
wake up, just beginning to embrace metaphysics, energy. I had a terrible argument with someone years ago about whether or not everything was energy.
Mhm.
And this person was yelling and screaming at me that no, I was wrong. The same person, like a couple of weeks ago, came back and went, okay, maybe you were right. What is it about this? Tell me more. So people are waking up and they are starting to embrace it. But you really, if you're in the beginning stages, you really need to be careful
Mhm.
about saying too much to the wrong people.
Yeah, it's funny. I did several readings this past weekend, which I didn't know I was going to be doing, but
Mhm.
they came up. And one, it was somewhat awkward for me because it's one of my current coworkers.
Oops.
in my, it's fine. We've had conversations about all the different things that I do, but it's not something that I talk about in my day job very often because it generally tends to get me in trouble when I talk about it during my day job. So, um, and welcome to all of our viewers who are watching now. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments section. We will be happy to answer them. So yeah, it was, Avatar has such a big impact. It's there's just so much in that movie. So I
Mhm.
recommend it if even the first one, if you haven't seen the first one.
I don't know why they're telling me this. It goes the other way too. Just like sometimes there are movies that come out that emphasize what is good and what is right and what is kind and what is light, there are also other movies that come out and they're all about gloom and doom and, kill everybody and hate and all this other stuff. So it's really important right now for people to kind of choose what you're feeding your brain a
Mhm,
little bit more carefully than we did in the past.
mhm,
Um, there are energies associated with anything that we watch. So
mhm.
kind of be mindful of what you watch because you're helping that energy go out into the universe. And we don't need a lot of darkness right now. We
Yeah,
really don't.
when I go through phases, and we've talked about this before, like right now, I'm fascinated again with all the Star Trek stuff and things like that. And I think it's interesting that they just announced that there's going to be a new team in 2024 that's going to be circling the moon. And then
Yeah.
there's a part of me, it's like, okay, I'm going to get myself in big trouble here. But and we already have a secret space.
We're already there. Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
like, so to say that we're now going to do it just seems funny to me. It's like, you know,
Well, there is so much that has been hidden.
uh-huh,
And it's not just the US government hiding stuff, it is every government hiding stuff. Now, lately, within the last 5, 6 years, South American countries have been coming forward more with, you know, different experiences that people are observing. But having been around some of the places in the US where anyone that is connected to anything knows that there are secret bases everywhere. There are. And I've been in close proximity to many of them. Their secrets are leaking. They're not going to stay secret forever. But I think right now, the energy that we all put out collectively will have an impact
mm,
on how closely held those secrets are.
mhm,
Right now, Freedom of Information Act has let out a lot of secrets, and it's kind of like, okay, well, there's a story. All right, let's push that aside now and go on to something else. Um, the Navy said, yes, those are UFOs. Yes, we don't know what they are. Yeah, here's the video, and everybody just went, oh, okay, and it was gone. It was like nobody talks about it anymore. Um, there is a theory, there is a collective of people that believe we do have that kind of technology. So maybe that was not alien technology. Maybe it was given to us from them, but that was ours. So we'll see. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how it all plays out.
mhm.
As I get a knock on the door from Men in Black. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, they're showing me the movie Men in Black, and they're also showing me the movie Independence Day, where all the people are standing on the roof because they're so excited to meet the multidimensional beings.
Yeah. Well, they're here. There is no waiting for them to arrive. They're here. They're here now. They've always been here. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at like any of the ancient sites, a lot of them, the hieroglyphs
Hmm.
have like helmets, like
Right.
so
Right.
it's just interesting that that's not the stuff that you learn about, but it exists if you really like search. ancient hieroglyphs and stuff like that. So,
I don't know that you really have to search that hard. It's readily available. You know, having seen some of the hieroglyphs in the southwestern United States, into Mexico,
mhm,
um, even, you know, in Hawaii, there are, everywhere you go, if you pay attention to what's around you, you will see kind of the same helmets, the same people wearing the same helmets that are, you know, were carved thousands of years ago. So
mhm.
this is not new. I think humanity may be waking up to it more. Um, but in distant past, we were awake to it. So we just kind of had amnesia for a while. We
I
had a
always,
long sleep.
whenever we have this conversation, I'm always like, what if we're a reality show for another planet?
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Which
I
always
do
makes me
think they
laugh.
find us very humorous.
I don't know why that always makes me laugh. So,
Yeah, yeah, they do. They're we are their entertainment, so it would not surprise me. Yeah.
so didn't know we were talking about that today.
I didn't either. There we go. That's how this show works.
So, you know, but I think it's important, one of the things that Kelly and I wanted to make sure that we covered when we started to do this show is to talk about all these things that no
Right,
one ever talks about.
right,
Because people have inclinations, people have gut reactions, people have had experiences, and then there's no place for them to be able to talk about them. So
right.
we wanted to give everyone a platform that it's okay to ask anything and put anything out there. There's no judgment on our part. And yeah.
Everybody starts from their own beginning.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes that becomes kind of a deterrent when you're starting out and you know bits and pieces. It's really easy to get overwhelmed.
Hmm.
And I hope that one of the things that we do with the show is help people kind of fill in the pieces in between their bits and pieces and help them move forward,
Hmm.
because no one is an expert in everything and none of us are perfect. So it's really important, if you have a question, to ask it.
So I would love to know if anyone who's watching or watches this at a later date, and even Kelly, you can answer that. So when you have the ability to talk to the other side, the other side of the veil, does anyone else ever have experiences when they're going to bed where you get like lots and lots of visitors who you don't even know who these people are? I mean, I get it, and I don't always understand when my entire family comes to visit me with cousins that I didn't even talk to in this
Right.
lifetime. But the other night, they all just paraded through my bedroom while I was trying to sleep. I'm like, "What is the deal here? I
Yeah.
just wanna go to sleep."
Yeah. And that's common for me most of the time. Sometimes I will go weeks without having it happen.
Mhm,
And then something will happen and then it'll be nightly for a month and a half. And it really, it varies. But lately I've had discussions with ascended masters about moving forward and humanity moving forward and what we need to do, and really heady stuff for me, not light and fluffy, it's really heavy stuff that I've been getting a lot lately.
you know
And
Go ahead.
no, they're just emphasizing to be mindful of what we're putting out into the universe, all of us.
It's funny that you say that because I haven't done a lot of mandalas lately, and in the last, like, week or so, I think the last one I drew was called Quantum Leap.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
when you're attuned, you start to feel these things. You don't always know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. You just get the sense in the force that something is going to change.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the things that people always find so funny. And, I know children who will say this, well, that was a tremor in the force. What's going on? I have to call somebody. Who is this? Who is it? And that's more and more and more common with kids than it is with adults. But we do feel it. And the more you are in tune and the more in touch with yourself you become, the more you recognize when something feels off. If you're always outside of your body and you're always looking for your answers outside, you're not going to be as sensitive to those things. But when you're in tune, you're in tune. There's lately for me, it's been a lot of this has to happen. People have to start putting love and light. People have to start thinking with their hearts. People need to start feeling more. People need to start caring more. And I'm like, what are you telling me for? Is sometimes you get those messages and it's like, yeah, okay, well, how am I going to do this? But I think each and every one of
But
us.
you're using it right now, right? You're
Right.
putting it out there for
Right.
everybody else that's
But
kind of the direction we need to go.
that's important for all of us to do.
Mhm.
And I think humanity as a whole maybe isn't there yet. But we need to get there. So, yeah, it's important.
I think too, sometimes with spiritual lessons, it's like hurry up and wait. It's like they get you ready and you learn the stuff that you need to learn. And then it's like, oh, wait, the world made a different choice. We're not going to need that right now.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
like it's like dominoes all stacked up. It's like, okay, this is happening, this is happening. Whoops, nope, we went that direction instead of this one. And it's kind of frustrating sometimes.
Mhm.
But
And so it's hard to not sometimes get frustrated or angry with spirit, you know, because it's like they don't make you. You have free will. It's a choice. And sometimes they strongly suggest that maybe you do this work to get to this place because your piece is going to be needed. So you do the work, and then it's like, oh no, not
well,
ready yet.
right. And I've said many times on the show, I argue with my guides. I just do. I'll be getting this message, this energy, and I'll go, nope. And, then they approach it a different way. Ultimately, though, even though we all have free will, and you can argue with your guides too, they really don't mind.
Mhm.
Um, we always end up where we're supposed to be anyway. With me, they just, okay, well, that didn't work with her. Let's try something different. And eventually they'll find something that will resonate with me.
With
But
me, they do it with the mandalas. It's like, "You really need to draw this mandala for the world," and it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm like, "No, I don't wanna." And they're
yeah,
like, "No, you really need to draw this for the world," and it's like, "No, I don't have the energy to do that," and then they just keep at it till, like, about 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, "Fine, I will sit down and draw this." It's something about bringing the energy through for the world, whether I show the picture to the world or not. The
right,
energy has been seeded into the earth. So
right.
sometimes that's what some of them are about for me. And partly that's my role here is to just bring energy through. But just always interesting.
I think it's important for people to realize that everyone here is here for a reason. And you may not ever really know what that reason is, but the world would not be the same without you.
Mhm.
Lately, I've heard of a lot of kids committing suicide again. Seems to be LGBTQ community.
Mhm.
And that always breaks my heart because that is such a special energy. And nobody chooses that. Nobody, says one day, you know what, I think I'm going to be the most difficult type of person. Nobody does that. And yet, so many of these people are so traumatized by the hate, by the anger, by the non acceptance that they're killing themselves. And we've got to stop that.
Mhm.
We've got to stop that. But there are so many voices around are coming from that community now that are about love and light and about look at yourself. Anytime you are triggered to the point where you hate someone. Hate's a really strong emotion. You need to ask yourself, where is that coming from? Because it's not right. The world doesn't need any more hate. Just like you have to be conscious of what you're watching, you also need to be conscious of why you are expressing something like hate. There's no place for it. Love is always the answer. Don't know why they wanted me to go there, but they did. I do know why. So there you go.
Do you
Because
want to, you
I
want to share
have
with the
people
rest
on the
of the
other
class?
side in that community. Yeah. So,
So yeah, I mean, I think there's so many difficult, it's, you know, we've talked about this in many shows. It's that there's so much dissonance right now in our world that it's really hard to figure out how to be
yeah.
and what to follow and who to believe. So it's always about trusting yourself and trusting what you know to be true, even if it seems diametrically opposed to what everyone else wants from you. If that's your truth, and that's what you have to live, otherwise, you're going to be miserable.
Right. Absolutely. And if you're ever confused, love is always the answer. That's always the answer. And it doesn't matter if that person looks different or acts different or believes different or whatever it is. Love is always the answer.
It
And
reminded me of when I was little. My mom used to call me the United Nations because I had like friends from every single
mhm,
diversity that I could possibly find growing up. So one of my nicknames was like, "You're just like a little United Nations," because I knew how important it was then, and
yeah,
it still is now.
it
We're,
is.
we're all, and one of the things that and it's in one of my books, is like when you see the Earth from above, there's no lines dividing it. There's no countries, there's no separateness, there's no lines. It's one planet. We're on one planet together and we're one race, the human race.
Yep.
We all look different, but we're still one race, the human race. And everyone, because of that, matters.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Apparently, I'm on a soapbox.
yay. But it is important, especially with everything going on worldwide, with all the upheaval and all the angst and all the fighting. And it's really important to sit back and ask yourself, what is really important here?
Mhm,
What really matters? And if you think about what really matters,
mhm,
it's love. That's really the answer. It's funny to me that so many people have come around to realizing that love is always the answer, because I grew up in the 60s and, the flower children and, all of that stuff. And they were so looked down on. Not my mother, she was part of it. But anyway, that's where we are.
mhm.
This really is a time when love is the answer. And I was thinking about the picture of the woman giving the flower to the police officer with in full riot gear. That's the answer. It's love. It's not prove you're right, or prove them wrong. It's how can we work together to make everything better? And people just don't seem to be getting that.
So now my spirit team, of course, is singing "We Are the World, We Are the Children," and what the world needs now is love, sweet love.
My brain went to the Coke commercial.
If
Yeah,
everybody can teach the world to sing in perfect harmony.
yeah.
Mhm,
But that's where we are.
mhm.
That's where we should be. You know. Hopefully, that's where we're getting.
Well, I want to reframe. You said that's where we should be. I'd like to reframe it to that's where we could be if we
Yeah,
allow ourselves to go
yeah,
there. And we have the capacity as human beings to get there. It's
we
up
do.
to us.
Yeah,
So I think
yep.
that seems like a good place to kind of wrap things up for
I
today.
think so.
All right, everybody, we will see you again in 2 weeks. If you guys have anything you want us to talk about during the lives, let us know. Send Kelly or I a message and we will make sure to cover that. Everybody have a great week and we will see you again really soon.
Yep. Bye.